Hello, I'm Kaiser and welcome to Moose Reads. Before I get started, I want to say that the opinions that I give here are my own opinions. They are extremely subjective. If I dislike a book, it is not a reflection on the author and it is not a reflection on people who do like it. Different people have different tastes, and that's okay. Today, I will be reviewing All the Hidden Paths by Foz Meadows. This is the second book in the Tithenai Chronicles. It is a queer fantasy romance. The description says, with the plots against them foiled and the city of Ki in safe hands, newlywed and tentative lovers Velison and Cathari have just begun to test the waters of their relationship. But the wider political ramifications of their marriage are still playing out across two nations, and all too soon they're summoned north to Tithenai's capital city, Ki to present themselves to its monarch. With Cathari newly invested as his grandmother's heir and Velison's old ghosts gnawing at his heels, what little peace they've managed to find is swiftly put to the test. Kay's recent losses have left him racked with grief and guilt, while Vel struggles with the disconnect between instincts that have kept him safe in secrecy and what an open life requires of him now. Pursued by unknown assailants, and with Ki Shihan's court factions jockeying for power, Vel and Kay must use all the skills at their disposal to not only survive, but thrive. Because there's more than one way to end an alliance, and more than one person who wants to see them fail, and they will resort to murder if needed. 5 stars. Once again, as this is the second book in the series, it will contain spoilers for the first book in the non-spoiler section. If you haven't read that book and don't want spoilers, this is not the video for you. Also, content warnings for mentions of rape and traumatic grief. When I read A Strange and Stubborn Endurance last May, this book was already announced, so Libby let me put in a request to be notified if my library got a copy. So I almost read this in December, but 2 things conspired against me. First, I forgot too much of the first book, so I needed to do a reread. Second, while Libby usually lets me read books on my Kindle, for All the Hidden Paths I was going to have to read on my phone. Call me old-fashioned, but I mostly hate using my phone for anything, especially reading. So this didn't work for me. I tried borrowing my dad's tablet, which is bigger and therefore less obnoxious to read on, but his case doesn't have a proper stand, which made it difficult to read hands-free. So I put it and the first book on the top of my Christmas list and hoped. Incidentally, if anyone knows a way to get the Libby app on a Paperwhite, let me know and you will have my eternal gratitude. So I read it in January. It was definitely worth it. In my Strange and Stubborn Endurance review, I said that one of the things I liked about the first book was how it properly engaged with how being raped affected Vel. This book continues in that vein. It has been something like a couple of months since it happened and Vel is still having some trouble with it. It isn't quite as omnipresent as it was in the first book, but certain things come up that are triggering for him. This book is also dealing very seriously with Kay's grief. He just lost his father and his baby sister, and he feels like it is, to some degree, his fault. He doesn't know what to do with those very difficult feelings, and it's a major problem for him. In the same way that I appreciate how Meadows handles the issues surrounding rape, I also appreciate the way they handled the extreme weight grief can sometimes have on a person. Of course, I still love the romance in this book. It helps that we are still, somehow, stuck in the fake dating trope. At the end of the last book, Kay admitted he was in love with Vel, but Vel wasn't as certain about his feelings. So here, at the beginning of this book, he's worried Kay will get tired of him, perhaps already is getting tired of him, while waiting for him to catch up. And due to the course of events in this book, there's a lot of strain put on their relationship and not a lot of opportunities, or courage, to discuss things. I once again didn't see the villain reveal coming. I did at one point consider the villain this time, but I dismissed them for various reasons as not being a viable suspect. I'm certainly glad I never have to deal with court politics, because I would be terrible at it. It didn't hurt that this book had a wealth of decent red herrings, or at least people that seemed like red herrings to me. There were only two things that were a little disappointing to me in this one. At first, I felt like Markle got shafted a bit. I'll discuss this more in the spoilers, but basically, there were some things that seemed like missed opportunities. And second, I was kind of looking forward to Vel playing court games, and because of the way the plot unfolded, he didn't really have much opportunity to do it. I'm not at all saying that this is a flaw in the book, it's just something I thought was going to be involved that would have been fun, and didn't happen. At the beginning of this book, we're introduced to a new character, Asrian, who we get some perspective from sprinkled lightly throughout the book. I'm not sure how I feel about him. He was technically an antagonist, but I think we were supposed to feel sorry for him, and I'm not sure I quite got there. It's hard to say because my feelings on him are extremely wobbly. Okay, that's it for no spoilers. If you don't like spoilers, now is the time to pause or close the video. For everyone else, let's talk details. This book gave me a small scare, which I did not appreciate, but it was mostly my own fault, so I can't blame it. At the beginning of the book, it warns for dubious consent and under-negotiated kinks. There were two things that could possibly count for that second bit, but there was only one that I could kind of see as dubious consent, and I honestly didn't think it was particularly dubious. I managed to completely forget these two warnings when I first got this book from the library and read the prologue and first two chapters before deciding to gamble on Christmas. So when I started it the second time and read that dubious consent warning, I knew Asrian was supposed to seduce one of the boys, and I was very worried that the dubious consent involved one of them falling into his trap. I don't like cheating plots in general, but I would have been downright furious if there was one here. Thankfully, that was not the case. And for anyone else who is watching this without reading and wants to know, they do not fall for it even a little. There is no cheating here. The under-negotiated kinks is probably referring to something that happens between Vel and Kay near the start of this book. It causes Vel to have a little freak out because they really needed to talk about it more, but it gets resolved pretty quickly. It could also be referring to some stuff with Asrian, which is also where I think that dubious consent comes in. Asrian, incidentally, is into BDSM, and that plays a significant role in parts of this book, so if that is really not your thing, you might want to pass on this one. It's not my favorite thing, which I suspect is part of why I didn't get terribly attached to Asrian, but it was fine. I did still somehow come out a bit disappointed when he said at the end that he and the guy he was hooking up with were seemingly done being together. I wish I could explain why that matters when I barely care about him and don't care about his would-be boyfriend, but I just don't know. There were many solid red herrings in this book. Meadows told us flat out in the beginning that Asrian couldn't be trusted, but also that he wasn't an assassin. But he certainly threw a wrench or two into things. Then there was the general who he started hooking up with. He was clearly poised as a red herring, and I didn't fall for it for more than a chapter or two. They introduced a character a little way in. The name escapes me right now, but their title was the Silver Chair. They showed up to save Kay's life at a party, then snuck him out through the Queen's garden, to which they weren't supposed to have a key, and asked him to keep it secret. Couple that with his knife going missing somewhere around when they showed up to rescue him, and I spent a couple chapters worried that Kay was going to be framed for the Queen's murder. Thankfully, he was only framed for something much smaller. The red herring I was the most convinced of, and which I'm not 100% sure was even actively meant to be a red herring, was Kay's uncle. Again, the name escapes me. Kay has never met his uncle because he's the brother of his mother's new husband, and he skipped their marriage gathering. He shows up with Asrian in tow, and due to some strange behavior at the garden party, I started thinking that, given Kay has never met him, he might not be who he says. I thought it would be kind of hilarious if they stuck the actual big bad with Asrian, so you're meant to spend the book focused on what Asrian might do instead of considering the mild-mannered uncle. I was a little disappointed I was wrong on this one. The actual big bad was not particularly subtle, in my opinion, though I did dismiss them eventually, so I can't say it was poorly done. There were various points where I tried to fit her into the plot, but couldn't quite parse the motive. And then I found out she was close friends with the Queen, and thought that she probably wasn't the assassin as a result. Like I said, it's a good thing that I don't have to deal with court intrigues. I'm much too gullible. With regards to Markle getting shafted, he does get to do some spy work by bullying Asrian, which I enjoyed. But later we see him strap on some blades and arm guards and tell Vel that he's trained to protect him and has been doing a shit job of it. I thought this was gearing up to him saving the day and kept waiting for him to show up a bit later when Vel and Kay walk into a trap, but it just never happened. Just before the trap gets foiled, the villain says she sent someone to secure Markle, and I was at least expecting them to find he had handled them without trouble. But I was wrong there too. He just gets caught by surprise and briefly captured. I didn't like that. I did like the book overall, though. I thought it was an excellent sequel and well crafted. I loved the plot and the characters. I can't wait for more. And I'm pretty sure there will be more, although I have no idea how to be certain. We still haven't met Kay's mother, which seems like something that's got too much setup to be thrown away. We haven't had their second marriage gathering yet. We haven't really dealt with the sudden problem with Revik at all, which seems unusually dismissive for this series. And there have been multiple hints that eventually Vel and Kay will try for kids. There's a lot still to be done, is what I'm saying. So I think there will be more eventually. If Meadows keeps pace, it'll be sometime late this year or early next, but I'm not about to place any bets. At any rate, if there is another book, you can be sure I'll be reading it. That's all I have to say about all the hidden paths. If you liked this video, I hope you'll watch more in the future. Thanks for watching this one. Bye!